There we go. Share, watch party, start watch party, and action. Do you have your microphone on?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Oh, okay. It can hear you, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, just talk.
I'm trying. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
If we need to add another microphone, let us know, y'all.
I'm trying to see.
Okay.
It can hear
you. Yeah, go ahead and turn it on.
Okay.
If we need to add another
why it's not fine.
We're having technical difficulties.
I don't think I can do the Mevo at the same time as Wi-Fi.
Right.
Okay.
We only needed your Wi-Fi for the...
Okay, it's on.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yep, I see it.
Okay.
And it says it has been reconnected. So
all right, good. All right, you want to press in right quick and we'll get rolling on this?
Yep. We only needed your Wi-Fi.
Okay, it's on. Okay, is that better?
I see it.
Okay.
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for this country, Lord. We just ask you to please continue to bless us. And we also ask you, Lord, to rush into all of our country's leaders' homes, Lord, and just to fill them with the Holy Ghost and touch all them, Lord, that they'll start to make godly decisions in your will. And we just pray for that, and we'll continue to pray for that. We ask that you open our hearts and our mind to your word as we dig back into Genesis chapter 41, Lord. And it's a long chapter, but there's a lot of good information. We just thank you.
15.
Verse 15. Mm-hmm. And thank you, Lisa. God knew we were at, but now everybody else does. Thank you. I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. Lord, just bless us, bless Dan, and bless the food that he brought with us this evening. We thank you for that. We say all these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right, we're in Genesis chapter 41. We start with verse 15. Just kind of summarize real quick. Joseph's been brought before Pharaoh because he could interpret dreams, and so they're going through a process here now. And he's just now beginning to, he's going to tell Joseph this about his dreams, okay? Verse 15 says, And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. Now, when Pharaoh said unto Joseph, this was immediately upon his being introduced to him, not waiting any time, but desiring to resolve this situation. Pharaoh's been in an anxiety attack or a panic attack or something over this dream. It bothers him. And he'd already called in all his soothsayers and his magicians and his court intelligent people, and nobody could figure it out. So the butler finally remembered his promise to bring him before Pharaoh, and it's been 2 years. He'd forgot for 2 years. Anyway, and so here we go. And he says, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. Pharaoh, that is, has not yet met with anyone who could understand this dream, right? None of his magicians or his wise men who made great pretensions to skill in such matters had a clue, basically, okay? And then it says, I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. It had been reported to him, particularly by the chief butler, that when he heard a dream told him, he had such knowledge and understanding that he could interpret it, tell the meaning of it, what it represented, and what would be the events signified by it. Okay? Now, can you imagine how stressed the chief butler is right about now? He had just recommended a guy from a prison that can interpret dreams brought before Pharaoh. I hope you can do your job, right? You know, the butler's sure of it, but you know, he's talking to the Egypt, basically, right? So verse 16 says, And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. Now, when Joseph answered to Pharaoh saying that, which expresses his great faith and his modesty, Joseph did not lay claim to such skill and wisdom to himself. He is declaring that he had no such power and abilities in and of himself to interpret dreams. But what he had was a gift of God and wholly dependent upon God's influence and the revelation that he was pleased to make to him of such things. That's pretty blunt. Was he just told Pharaoh, I can't do it, but my God can. So, wow, we just confronted, one Christian God just confronted all the pagan gods of Egypt. And they had worship, right? So, when he said, God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace, this is an interesting statement. Joseph is saying that God will answer to his request in the interpretation of the dream, shall give him full content and make his mind quiet and easy, give Pharaoh understanding and wisdom in it. Right? Now, why would Joseph say that? Well, it's not because of Pharaoh. It's because he knows God can do it. Some of the writings that I was reading in the Jewish text, Jewish historians, say this was almost like a prayer while he was speaking to Pharaoh. He's saying, right? God's going to give you this request, God help me with this interpretation, and give me full content, make his mind quite easy, give Pharaoh the understanding and wisdom of it. He's not even asking for himself; he's asking for Pharaoh. Right. And I put it in here somewhere in the words as a prayer or wish. May God give Pharaoh. See, right? As if Joseph was addressing God, that he would be pleased to make known to him his interpretation of the dream, to the satisfaction of Pharaoh. The other sense seems best, which expresses his faith in God that he would do it, and to whom it should be ascribed and not unto himself. Joseph never has claimed any of it. You notice that? Even in the interpretations between the butler and the baker, he didn't. No, it wasn't me. Right? He takes nothing away from God. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. Right. So 17 is where we're at. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river. Now, he's relating both his dreams in a more ample or simplified manner here, though to the same purpose that was before related when we talked about it. Okay? And he said, in my dream, behold, I stand upon the bank of a river. Of course, this was the Nile, the River Nile, where he could have full sight of what was presented to his view. He would be where he could see the whole river. Does that make sense? It would have been one of those views type of things. All right. And 18 starts out, and it says, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat fleshed and fed in a meadow. Now, we've already discussed the fact that a kine is a cow. All right. So they come up out of the river. So, okay.
They've never seen them before.
No, and they just come up
right
out of the river. They come walking out of the river and into a meadow.
They were first made.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. You've never seen these before. Okay. And then it said 19 says, and behold, 7 other kine came up after them. Okay, that would have been out of the same river. Poor and very, very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I have never saw in the land of Egypt for badness. Oh, wow. Okay. He's describing 2 totally opposite effects, right? But both of them, you have to recognize, comes out of the river. Both of them come out of the river, okay?
A fat cow, and then they're actually cows.
Right. Yeah, there you go, right? Now, what was not before expressed in his dream, this is some new information that comes up in this next verse, okay? In this next section, it says, such as I have never saw in the land of Egypt for badness, so poor, so lean, and so ill-favored. For whatever might be seen in other countries, never were such seen in Egypt, which was famous for its good kine, or its cattle. Egypt at the time was it was the marketplace for cattle, or it was their emblem or their status, the bull, right? It was part of their pagan gods too. Okay. All right. And 20 says, and the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kine. Okay. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. Now, when he says they had eaten them up, or it means when they come into their bowels, they had been totally devoured. Okay, and they were in their bellies, being swallowed and devoured by the ill ones. So you have these healthy cattle, and it's a freaky thing. I can see why the Pharaoh woke up.
Mm-hmm.
You have cattle that are vegetarians, right? Eating up the other fat cattle.
That rose up out of the river.
Yes.
Right. And he's had this dream more than once.
It's been repeated.
Right.
But
That's
now
why he
it's-
asked for an interpretation.
The skinny cows ate the fat cows.
Yep, but you couldn't tell they'd eaten them. That's what he's trying to get
Oh,
across.
so they're still skinny.
Still skinny and ill. And he's like, yeah, that would freak you out, right?
Right.
Do you think they have a small belly? I would think about
They have the belly was
Yeah.
nothing. Right?
Bizarre.
It could not be known that they had eaten them. When they were in their bellies, they seemed never the fuller nor the fatter for consuming them. Wow. So, they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. They looked as thin and as poor, and alas, they didn't when they first came out of the river, or were first seen by Pharaoh. Right? Now, if I dreamed a dream like that, I imagine I would be pretty freaked out over it.
Right.
Right? Because first off, I can't imagine a cow eating another cow. It just
Right.
doesn't happen, right? They're not carnivores,
Right.
right? They aren't.
Right.
The second part is the ill ones are the ones attacking the good ones,
Right.
right? Instead of vice versa,
Vice versa.
right? Because in normal herds, the ill are left behind or
They
abandoned
get
Right.
eaten.
by
Other
the other
animals.
predators.
Predators.
Right. So this is a total reverse of what nature does, and it's balanced, right? So then, the last part of that is it didn't change anything, even though they consumed them. Whoa! Now Pharaoh's going to wake up. He's like, they consumed everything that was.
You know how they were taking the leftover cattle and milling them up and putting them in with the feed to fatten them up, and they got mad cow disease?
Yep, caused the disease, didn't it?
Almost sounds
That's
like
right.
that. They were taking the
Yeah,
cattle, the
that's
slaughtered
what I'm
ones,
sitting here
which,
thinking is
which
mad
are
cow
fat
disease.
and healthy and great for butchering.
Right.
And then they took all the leftover parts and pieces and they milled it up
Yeah,
and they
grind
put
it
it in
bone,
with the
yeah.
grain
Uh-huh.
and fed it to the other cows so
That's
that
how they
those
got
cows
mad
could
That's how they
get
got mad cow
fatter,
disease.
right?
Good
Because now
Lord.
they're eating protein,
Right.
bigger, fatter, but then they got mad because you can't.
Because it's toxic.
Right.
It will cause problems.
Mm,
Okay, so that's what Pharaoh's dreamed. Okay, that's interesting, isn't it?
it is interesting. Mm.
I take that in front of a
That's what I was-
veterinarian and see what he thinks.
Mhm.
Anyway, okay, so we got through that. Now, this is the second part of the dream. Verse 22. And it says, I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up, and one stalk, full and good. Right? 23 says, and behold, 7 ears withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. All right. Okay, here we go again, right? Now, it says, and behold, 7 ears withered. That's where we need to go. Okay? Everybody understands that if a stalk comes up and it has 7, you know, say we'll use corn, but
Right.
wheat will come up with a main head and then it'll put up extra shoots. And that's just good grain. You know, that's a benefit. Okay? These are withered. A new epitaph is what it is. Of the bad ears is given and expressed by a word nowhere else used in the text. The word's withered. Is nowhere else used in the Old Testament or any of the text.
So then they mistranslated
I
it?
think they mistranslated. I think it means, from what when I went back and looked at it, in Jewish it would mean spoiled or
Not healthy.
Like a root rot.
like a fungus.
fungus.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yep.
Because we have that. with
And it
wheat.
would wither.
It would wither, right? That's what they're talking about there. Okay.
Okay.
Now,
So again, sick. A
Yes.
sick, scrawny
Scrawny
plant
plant
came.
came up right with the good ones, right? Now, Ben Melech interprets small, little, according to use the word in the Mishnah, which is the Mishnah, the current spelling meaning an authoritative collection of exegetical material embodying the oral tradition of the Jewish law and forming the first part of the Talmud. It's a study of the history and the wording, okay? Because by the time this was all being written down with Moses, some of the language had disappeared already.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Right? We know that with a lot of different cultures. Some of the Indian language is gone. You know, and they're recording as much as they can of it. Okay. For the word it is used in the Arabic language that it might signify that these ears were only mere shadows or images of ears which had no substance in them. Okay. Ibn Ezra, just above that, expresses as void, empty, such as had no grains of corn in them, nothing but husk or chaff, and observes that some render it images, right? So they're kind of agreeing. And Jarsi says that in the word, the Syriac language signifies a rock, so it denotes that these ears were as dry as rock and had no moisture in them, lay dried, burned up, and blasted with the east wind. These things are just, it looks like tonopah right now. Basically,
Yeah,
the
it
weeds
looks
in the
like
grass,
you look out anywhere in the
Yeah,
desert out
right?
here.
Dried
It's just
out.
blasted, right?
Blasted from
Brown,
the wind.
burnt.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the heat and the wind, right? Because the winds are picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Ready to just catch on fire.
Right.
Exactly. Okay? 24. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. Now, and the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And that's and you see Genesis 41:7. We talked about that a little bit there, right? It was just like the cows. The bad or the ill was devouring up the good. But there was none that could declare it to me. None of his magicians, or as he noted there, right, knew what the meaning of it or what it should signify or represent. Okay? So we go to 25. And this is where it starts getting good. And it says, And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Now, when he's telling the Pharaoh that this is one and the same dream, they were 2 distinct dreams expressed under different images and representations. The meaning, the sense, and signification of them was the same, so one interpretation would do for both. Now, it's pretty confident of Joseph if you think about it. Well, Pharaoh, you don't have to worry about it. It's only one dream, right? But what was God trying to tell Pharaoh in his dreams? Why would he do cattle and grain? Well, we have to go back
Because
to
that's
Because
what they
had.
had. That's
That's all
their.
they had.
well, they had
Right.
grain,
Well,
right?
grain.
And they imported a lot of stuff
Yeah.
off the rivers.
But that's what their main primary.
Is this what they were
sources are.
known for too?
Mm-hmm.
that was their commerce.
The finest meat and
The finest meat and the
grains.
finest grains because
okay.
of the
The
Nile.
Nile.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Its
yeah.
flooding
That's
was,
right.
we looked at that map the other day when
Yeah,
we
that's
pulled
good.
it up, right? That thing spread out wide, and that's a
Mhm.
lot of farming,
Right.
right? And a lot of production in a very small area, actually.
Pretty much.
So he was trying to get Pharaoh to look at the commerce of the country and the basis of its existence. And he was trying to do it through 2 different avenues. Does that make sense? Okay. Pharaoh, you're known for your cattle. Well, now the ill ones are eating the good ones. You know? You produce more grain than any place in the world, and the bad grain's eating your good grain.
Right.
Something's coming, hello, right?
Mhm.
That would be a wake-up call. That's why it bothered him so much, because he couldn't put it together in his head.
Right.
Right. Gotta, and I think it's really, God has showed Pharaoh what he's about to do. Now, this is according to the above dreams, when they should be interpreted to him. For as yet Pharaoh did not understand them. Therefore, there could be nothing showed him, but when interpreted, it would be clear and plain to him what events were quickly to be accomplished. Okay, so what Joseph has done is set Pharaoh up to really hear what he's saying. First he says it's just one dream, it only has one meaning. And Pharaoh's standing there like, I had 2 dreams, you know? You're telling me I'm the king, right? Second, he says, God is showing you what's going to happen. Not your God, not Baal, not ISIS, not any of them. My God trying to show you what's going to happen. That was a wake-up call for Pharaoh to listen. Okay? Therefore, there could be nothing showed him. If Joseph had tried to do as the magicians or something to create the same sequence of events, he would have totally ignored Joseph. But Joseph didn't go that route. He just spoke plainly to him. God only knows things future, and those to whom he is pleased to reveal them, and which he did in different ways by dreams, visions, articulate voices. We have covered this in Genesis a lot. You know, even was it Isaac? No, Jacob wrestled with was an angel, right?
Right.
Kind of got spoken to, right? So that was 8, right? Okay. Need 9. All right. All right. I think he starts off with, where am I at?
26, verse 26.
Okay, that's this side. Okay. Now he starts out verse 26. It says, "The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is 1." Because the number 7 is represented both in cattle and in heads of corn, right? Since the number of kine and good ears are both 7, they represent or signify 7 years. And these are years of plenty that we know of, since you would have both if the kine are fat and the ears are indicating more production than normal. Okay? So key phrase there, the dream is 1. Joseph indicates that both of Pharaoh's dreams are only 1. Don't look at the everything yet. But also 7 is representative of what?
There's 7 days in a week.
It's holy.
Holy number
It's
7.
always,
It's God.
yes.
You know, 7 days in a week. You rest on the 7th, the Sabbath, right? It's God's day. God is telling him, this is my message, right? And we know through other studies that numbers are very important to God.
Yep.
Okay. Now 27 says, "And the 7th then, and the ill-favored kind that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears blasted with the east wind shall be 7 years of famine." So we can have 7 years of plenty, and then 7 years of devastation. Famines are really bad in this area of the country. I don't know if you guys have ever seen those pictures over there or been in one. It will make you rethink a lot of things, let me tell you. Okay, so the ill and the thin kind that came after the 7, they signify 7 years that are different from the former. All right, but they originate from the Nile. So the Nile is the source of both, isn't it? Because it keeps saying it comes up out of the Nile. All of this stuff does, right? Well, we know for a fact that even today, the Nile River, they put dams on it. But the Nile River, when it's flooding and overflows, it produces amazing crops. But they put the dams in so they control the water, so that when they do have the famines, or they have light years of rain, they can still produce.
Water,
right? Okay? They didn't have that at this time period, right? 28. "This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh." So it wasn't my dream, it's your dream. This is your doing. It's your decision. Right? It's an interpretation of his dreams as he had requested. That's what Joseph's is saying, right?
Right.
29. "Oh, I think that what God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. The events of the 14 years with respect to plenty and famine, Joseph again claims God is showing him these things." He's saying, "He didn't show me, he showed you." Right? You're the ruler. You're supposed to take care of this. Right? All right. 29 I like. It says, "Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt." Right? Now, that when it says...
Yeah, but behind that,
Right.
the great plenty, right? 7 years of great plenty throughout the land, right? Not only a sufficient, but an abundance, even to luxury, as when the Nile rose to 16 cubits, as Pliny observes in some of his historical writings, which, though through a natural cause, was owing to God that it should thus overflow for 7 years successfully and cause such a continued plenty, which we can ascribe to no other than God. God controls anything he wants, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if that, here's the situation. It's really amazing if you think about it. First year flooding, right? The bank usually floods out within a half mile each side of the river, right? It stays moist. The
Mhm.
river's up. A year comes by, and that's growing, right?
Yeah.
It floods again. It goes farther. It keeps spreading every year,
Growing, yeah,
and
it's just
more and
growing.
more. They still harvest the same crops, but they keep adding more crops.
Mm-hmm.
You see, that's how you get the plenty, because that river just keeps spreading out. And they know at one time the Nile River has been estimated at 20 miles across.
Well, yeah, we
Wow.
saw it on the map last week.
Yeah,
20 miles across.
yeah, just the river.
Yeah, if you look at that map,
Mm-hmm.
That's huge.
those banks are
way
at
up.
least 20 miles.
At least
apart.
20 miles apart.
We'll just think how deep it would be then.
Yeah, but it's flooding out
Right.
into that desert. And what happens out here in the desert when it rains?
Turns green.
Grass
green,
pops
green,
up.
green. Yeah.
It's the same thing there. Okay, the seed is already there. The seed from the previous fields would flood into the next one, and then
Right, and then the
Right.
next
It just
one, and
gets
the
bigger
next
and
one, and the
bigger.
next one.
right. And you think these guys aren't
Until
planting?
there's a drought.
Until
Right.
there's a drought, right? That's coming. Okay, so I don't think I have. Maybe I do.
It's on the back.
Yeah, this Pliny the Elder. His name is Gaius Plinius Secundus,
Mm-hmm.
called Pliny the Elder, was a Roman author, a naturalist, and natural philosopher, a naval and army commander of the early Roman Empire, and a friend of the Emperor
Mm.
Vespasian.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote the Encyclopedia Naturalis Historia of the Natural History, which became an editorial model for encyclopedias even today. He spent most of his spare time studying, writing, and investigating natural and geographic phenomena in the field. And that was done in 23 to 24 AD.
Wow.
Mm.
And now, as a naturalist and a geologist and all his studies and background, right? Could he have told and go back and look at mud form, how far it's, yeah. So he can go back. That's why he made the comment about this. It's like, yeah, this happened.
Well, and you
I
can
can prove
still see the banks today in modern times in 2020 through satellite imaging. Those banks probably would have been deeper back then
Yes.
because the sand would have
Filled
blown
in.
and
Yeah,
filled
keeps
in. The main river still would be
would flow
carving,
through.
right?
Right. It would spill out into the Mediterranean. Right. But yeah. And then with the agricultural and the canals and the damming, it doesn't spread out as far now.
Because you controlled it.
You control it. They
Right.
actually learn to
And
control
then
it.
remember, there's that lake.
Yes. Big, huge.
So the lake becomes a surge tank.
Yep. Surge. Exactly.
So there's
Exactly.
no more
Yeah, no more
flooding.
flooding.
Right.
They just pump it out in the canals.
Right.
It's like the water we get here in Arizona, right?
It's like here, we dam and Palo River. The
Right.
flooding goes away, but we can farm.
Yep.
Yep.
Exactly the same principle. Okay. Right. So that was just another person that was outside of the Christianity and the
Mhm.
judicial system that actually verified what was written in our word.
Right.
Okay. All right. 30, verse 30 says, "And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land."
Mhm.
Now, when it shall arise after the 7 years of famine, after them 7 years of famine, which might be due to the river Nile not rising so high as to overflow its banks.
Mhm.
It was noted when it did not rise to more than 12 cubits, a famine ensued, as the above writer says, right? Now it would be who? Who wrote this? Moses.
Moses.
But he was raised in Egypt. He would know it,
Right.
right? He would have been required to study it, okay? Now, I think you guys, what page you on?
Page 10.
Page 10. Okay, there we go. I got it. "And the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt." Now, the 7 years of plenty being all spent or done with is what it's saying there,
Mhm.
right? It should be as if it never was. The minds of men would be so intent upon their present distressed case and circumstances that they should wholly forget how it had been with them in the time
Mhm.
past.
Yep.
Or you could say it would be as if they had never enjoyed it or were never even the better for it.
Right.
This helps to answer and explain how it was the ill-favored kind when they had eaten up the fat kind, why they seemed never the better, nor could it be known by their appearance that they had done so. It was to represent the people.
Mhm.
They don't remember. that they had it good.
Exactly.
Right.
That's typical human being.
Right, right. And the famine shall consume the land. Now, this is the inhabitants of it, and all the fruits and the increase of the former years produced, to include the animals as
Yes.
well. A famine has no mercy.
Right.
It's bad.
Well, it starts with the grain. With no grain, you can't feed the cows.
Yeah.
The cows die.
Horses.
And you know, during the years of increase, they planted other types of trees, and that's why it talks about fruits.
Yes, yes, because if you look at the history of it, we know that they traded for different fruits for the Pharaoh. And he started the pear trees and the apple trees,
Right.
and it's all going to die. Right? Except what is right on the Nile River
Right. Which
And-
are those reeds?
and the reeds. That's the
Right.
only place they'll survive.
And that's it.
Right?
And you can't eat those.
No. No, can't.
Cattle can, but there's not enough.
Not enough nutrition.
For all the cattle they
No.
have after the end of the 7 years of increase and
Mhm.
increase and increase.
Right. Right. All right. So we're going to start with 31. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. Now, twice it's mentioned here how bad it is going to be. Why does it mention twice?
It's
So-
important.
It's very important. He's trying two dreams of the same thing, right? He's trying to get Pharaoh's attention and saying,
Listen to me.
you're going to be in a big bind here, and people are going to die, and you're going to lose your kingdom if you don't do something.
Mhm.
That's what he's trying to tell him. All right. So it says, I read that right, didn't I? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Therefore it be over the otherwise former time of plenty was in some measure known by the stories of provisions laid up in the 7 years of it, which were opened and reopened when the famine became very pressing. By that time, and before the 7 years that were ended, there were no traces of the foregone plenty to be observed. Now, we'll read that as it goes down here, right? This would be very grievous, as it was in Egypt, in life and death for all within this period. It's going to get to the point of life and death. It's that bad.
There is no moderation
No.
or
There's no moderation.
Because they went all in.
what's it called? Portioning out or
They wouldn't
whatever.
have put it right. They would, because it had never been established. They just figured that the Nile would go ahead and continue to supply.
Right.
Right. They just lived for the moment.
Kind of
Gluttonous.
gluttonous. Actually, it's actually to that point.
Mhm.
And then as soon as the gluttony is taken away, what happens? People panic, right?
Mm.
And they don't remember that a year ago you were fat and happy sitting on 20,000 pounds of grain. Now you can't feed yourself.
I'm seeing that right now.
Yeah.
Or were a couple months ago with toilet paper.
Right?
Right.
Amazing, huh?
It's serious. There's
Right,
parallels
you're
here.
right.
Yep, there's
And
parallels.
people need to recognize that.
Right.
There was, yeah.
I saw people posting today. Oh, look, I struck gold. How I've missed you.
Yeah.
On
Right.
Charmin toilet paper.
Right.
I'm like, wow.
But they didn't plan ahead, did they? People didn't, and people panicked.
And when people panic and they don't have God to turn to, that's why they go buy as much toilet paper as they can, because it's inexpensive enough, and psychologically it lets them feel like they're in control of something.
Right, and they have
exactly. And
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a volume.
They have
thing.
a lot
It's
of it.
mass.
They can hold on to this big
Yes.
thing, and
Right.
it's all
Yeah,
psychological.
it's all psychological.
It has nothing to do with running out of toilet paper.
Nope,
Right.
nope. It's all about
It's just saying
possession.
that I've got it. Yeah. It's mine, mine, mine. Yeah.
Yeah. And we let God control it. You have more than enough.
Well, it's also
We
that
never-
they're saying, look at all that I've got. You don't get it.
And even if they're not verbally expressing that in their subconscious
They're
little
saying that.
minds,
Right.
that's what's saying. That's what's being told. That's what their subconscious saying to their conscious.
I didn't go and stock up on any of that. When they said be prepared for lockdown or whatever,
Right.
we went through the freezer and we said, okay, we've got enough food and
Right.
supplies to last us for this house. At the
Oh.
time, 8.
I did buy an extra thing of coffee.
Oh, an extra coffee.
But actually, I was thinking of Sherry because I remember
Yeah,
she
right.
said, I
Yeah.
don't know must
Just
have
a
enough coffee for
coffee.
2 weeks.
But I just accidentally,
We always do shopping where we had the stuff stocked anyway.
right, and
'cause
put it
we
in your
live out here.
pantry. Well, I accidentally got all that extra, because normally I don't. I just, because it's just me. So, but I just so happened to get this great big thing of it. And then there was an opportunity to get another one. I was like, well, might as well. And then that happened. I was like, oh, well, I got all kinds. And I was giving it away. I was like, if you need some, I've got some. Let me know. I'll share it. And I did. I shared quite a bit. But I had gotten extra food. And I normally don't do that. But I just had the opportunity to do it. And then this happened. I was like, wow.
Well, God
Thank
allowed
you.
you the
Yeah,
opportunity.
he
Yes,
made
he
the
helped
opportunity
me.
available.
Right?
Yep.
All right, so 32 starts out, and for that to Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. You only get 2 warnings. Yay.
Third
nay.
time's
1,
the
2,
charm.
3 strikes you're out.
Yeah, right. So, and the thing was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It was repeated to him under different figures and images, so because it was that important, right? And then it is established by God by a firm decree of his, and sure and most certainly be accomplished. So Joseph is telling Pharaoh that it will be done as commanded, and to assuring him that it was a repetition of the dream made. Wow. You know, he's 30 years old. How many people do you know that are 30 years old that would stand before a king? It's going to hit the fan, man. You better be ready.
Right.
And the king believed him. Think about
Right.
it. Because Joseph wasn't in any position of power or authority. He came from the lowest, right? But his faith in what God had told him made his
Came out.
presence, yeah,
He shined.
He shined.
Shone,
Shone.
shined,
Yeah.
whatever.
shown, yeah,
Mhm.
right?
He shined it.
He lit it
And the
up.
fact that he keeps saying that God will shortly bring it to pass, that it would be soon begin to accomplish or begin these events. Even now, it needs to be noted or recognized and heeded. This is not something you need to wait on. You need to do something.
You
Plan.
need to figure out how many years you've been growing, getting up to
Mhm.
this point. And if it's been 6 years, you got 1 more year left.
Right.
Better
I
start
know.
planning.
We don't know yet.
Right.
Right. But he's like,
hmm
you got your
Yeah, if I was
Your
for
court
Abby going,
people.
let's see.
what's it been like in the river, right?
Let's see.
Because you know
River
that's
going,
that's
how
what
many years?
the pharaohs of Egypt are the ones that begin the measurements of the Nile River. They recorded it.
Mm.
It was recorded thousands of years.
So he'd be going back and looking at his logbooks.
Yeah.
Right. It's like,
the hieroglyphics on the walls, right? Like,
mhm.
what year was that? You know?
Oh.
It's on the wall. It's all carved into the walls. And those columns.
Access for anybody to view it.
Yeah.
Right.
And nobody paid attention.
Right.
Okay. So, 33 says, now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise and set him over the land of Egypt. Now, he's telling Pharaoh that he needs someone of good judgment and conduct, of abilities equal to the execution and achievement of what is proposed.
Hmm.
I think that's pretty sound advice. Pharaoh, you need to find somebody from your group.
you
Is that
can
it for you
trust.
guys?
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, I got the rest of them right here for you. Dun, dun, dun. 34, right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Again.
All right. All right, 11. You go with it. Yeah. I think there's only 21 pages missing.
Okay.
That's
That's just the first half.
no, this is the second half.
Okay, this is the second half?
Yeah.
Okay.
Starting the second half now. I divided it up. You guys keep an eye on the clock for me, right? So,
10 minutes.
all right, 34 says, let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years. Now, that's pretty amazing. It says, let Pharaoh do this. You better get on with this, buddy. You know, appoint such a person who, as a sovereign prince, could do it of himself without consultation with his court. Now, the Pharaoh has nephews and nieces and all family. He could assign one of them. And that's what Joseph is telling him.
Mm-hmm.
Assign one of your family members that you trust and get this thing set up and going. Right? And what he's saying, too, about not having to deal with the court is the Pharaoh's court would be much like the time of Daniel when the other countries would come in and do negotiations and things. The system came from. Right? So all business was conducted in Pharaoh's court, but not in his presence necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
His court advisors would do the dealings and the exchange and
right.
stuff, right? He said, you want somebody that doesn't even have to deal with that. That answers to you. That's what he's telling me. One of your princes doesn't have to deal with the court. They can come directly to you, and I need to get this done.
Well, would it also be if he talked to the court about this, it could cause panic?
Yes. Well, not just panic. It's going to cause political nightmare.
Right, because that's why our lawmakers hide things from us to protect us from ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
It could cause panic.
Right.
Yeah. Both ways. He's saying both things there.
Okay.
Right? He's trying to get Pharaoh to realize that you need to take responsibility of this.
So this needs to happen now.
Now, right? He's just trying to get it through to him, right?
No council meetings and votes and none of that. It just needs to happen.
Right. And by saying let him appoint officers over the land, Joseph's not suggesting that the Pharaoh do it himself.
Right.
Right? But a wise and discreet governor, he should set over the land, who should have the power of authority of appointing officers or overseers under him to manage things according to his direction. Joseph is basically setting up a parliament, basically, a control.
That's another
For
town or city or
You're right.
another state of Egypt.
A state of Egypt, basically, which that would control, but it would be in every town or district, like our state representatives.
Right.
That's what he's setting up. He's setting up a Senate, basically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then under the Senate, you would have your mayors and your governors and things that run things within that city or that district. Okay. Our government's basically set up in the same way. It really is. All right. Now, it says, take up a fifth part of the land of Egypt in 7 plenteous years. Note, here it is not the officers appointed. It would be the appointer of them, the chief governor under Pharaoh, for the word is singular. It says here, right? Take up the fifth part of the land, right? It would be that the guy that would be, you need to have one person that can come to you and say, this is done, this is not done. You don't need 7, 8, 10, 20 people coming in and bothering the Pharaoh, right? Have that one singular. It is proposed that he should be in Pharaoh's name. He should have the authority of Pharaoh. And by his order, take a fifth part of all the corn of the land in Egypt during the 7 years of plenty. Now, this suggestion was not by force, which was not even included in this writing, but in the historical text of Egypt, he was not suggesting that a good man to whatever power Pharaoh might have, right? He isn't even talking about himself. He's talking about, but by making purchase of it, he's saying make purchase of it, in which in time of plenty would be bought cheap, and which so great a prince as Pharaoh was capable of. Pharaoh had the financial ability to buy what was extra, what was luxury, what was
right. And supply and demand says if the supply is too much,
it's cheap.
It's cheap.
The price drops.
If the demand stays the same, which is probably more and more,
yes,
then it's going to drive the price down.
It drives the price down, right? And buy it up. Because people will take the gold and
just
silver.
to get rid of it so it doesn't spoil.
It doesn't spoil, then they'll have any way to store it. All right. I put a special note in here. Is the only commonly asked why only a fifth part are ordered to be took up, since there were to be as many years of famine as there was plenty. A fifth part might be equal to the crop of an ordinary year, or near it if not a little more, right? Also, it may be added that in times of famine, men live more sparingly as they are obliged, and therefore such a quantity would go further, right? It's basic economics that if you save up a fifth, for 7 years, it would be just sufficient to answer the extreme,
Mhm.
and even to allow distribution to other countries. Think about it. They're producing, well, what it said, 7 ears of corn or 7 heads on the wheat.
Mhm.
Usually you get one.
Right.
So if your crops for 7 years are producing 7 times what they're supposed to have, that's by God, God's plan, right? That's, I think you have enough to carry you through,
And then some.
and then some, and then some. Yes.
Right, and like it says, when you know you don't have enough to eat less food,
Yes.
you start
You-
rationing.
You cut yourself back.
Right.
Yeah. So you're going from being fat and luxurious to thin and
Then fit kind of fit. And
fit and thin. Yeah, there you go. That type of one. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you eat what you need, not
Yes,
what you want.
not what you want, right? You're not gluttonous. The gluttony is going to go away, okay? Then it says 35, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities, right? Now, the good years that come there, that is, let the officers assigned collect together the fifth part of all fruits of the land during the 7 years of plenty. Fruits can be dried and stored too, can't they?
Right.
Guess who was doing that already? People in Egypt in that time period were already storing fruit and grain, but they were doing it in small quantities in their homes. You know, the home, they would have what they would dig a pit, or like our basements or cellars.
Mm-hmm.
They would have a place for storage because it would the heat of the day in the desert there.
Right.
You wanted it underground and in shade.
It's like a
Pretty
root,
much
root
like your
cellar.
cellar.
Root
Right.
cellar, yeah,
Yeah.
they're making kind of like a pantry outside, yeah.
Mhm. It says, lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh. This would be the property only to be disposed of by his orders. That's what it's saying there when it says, lay the corn up under the hand of Pharaoh. When it's under Pharaoh's hand, it's secured.
Mhm.
Means it will be guarded. It will be accounted for. Okay? As it was be purchased with his money, it was right that he should be in his hands or in the hands of his officers appointed by him, as the Tagram Johnson has recorded. Right? And let them keep food in the cities. Now, reserve it in the several cities throughout the land, making distribution easier and less work transporting it. Well, yeah, if you transported it all into, say, Cairo, which was the capital of the time,
Right.
and then you had to send it back out,
Well, it would get hijacked.
yes? Not just hijacked, how much it would be lost,
That too, bouncing around and wind and everything.
right? Okay?
Losing some part of it.
All right, I think we're going to stop right there.
Perfect.
36.
Yeah, we'll start with 36.
Page 12.
Page 12, okay? Does that work for you guys?
Yep, you good.
It's amazing. There's so much that comes with it. You see the political side of it. You see the economic side of it. You know, God tells you what to do, right?
Do you see parallels with what's happening right now?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and also the fact that, like you guys said, I didn't even know this was coming, this pandemic or whatever.
Right.
Right? We had enough stuff stored. We had already bought up. I think God had already put it upon our hearts to make sure that we had it. Now, we had enough for our family, taking care of Tanya and Ben, and Chelsea,
Mhm.
and Dave, and Dodie, and Glenn. I needed a huge pantry.
Right.
And we had enough to take care of 6 adults and a baby. And
No, 7 adults and a baby.
Mm-hmm.
We had Zach included
Oh,
in that.
Zach and then his kids.
And then every other weekend,
then-
his 3 boys.
And then
Amazing how
Troy
far
would
it
come
went.
over.
And Troy would come over.
It
And
just
Jillian
it
would
never
have,
seemed to empty.
That's
Right.
what's, yeah.
Never.
I'm looking at my shelves right now and I'm like,
I was
Are you
hoping-
hoping,
in there.
We couldn't even get anything else in our freeze.
Right.
right?
Yeah.
and then APS blesses all their employees and gives them food boxes
Mhm.
twice a week.
That's great.
And then so it's
That
like
kept us from having to go to the
The
store.
store.
right,
Right.
and that was out in public.
They didn't
Right.
want us out.
I have to go out.
So I figured this is going to be great because there's no meat, meat shortages, this shortage, that shortage. The pantries and the freezers are going to get emptied, and then we'll know what's in there, and then we can, when this
Right.
is over, we can restock with all
Right.
fresh stuff, defrost the freezer maybe,
Right.
clean it out.
Never think you
It
did.
just, dude,
I know.
Well, we had one freezer go down, so we had to transfer all that into another freezer. So that one's empty, but
Well, he told you.
But Jillian,
Yeah,
right
you know.
before all this hit, her and Tim bought a refrigerator with a freezer.
Mhm.
So
Amazing.
And they
It was
filled it.
planned, wasn't it?
theirs was full. Our
See,
kitchen
I
was
never
full.
used that word.
Our bathroom was
We
full.
were so lucky that Tim and Jillian bought that thing. I never used that anymore.
No, you can't. Not if you really understand God. He blesses those
It's
that are faithful.
exactly what I
Right.
talked about Sunday,
Mm-hmm.
but I forgot to even talk about the freezer.
Because that shelf that I have, that
Yeah.
by the stove, I have this little
Storage shelf.
store, yeah, and it got all my canned goods and stuff like that. It just kept getting fuller and fuller, and I'm like, where's all? I don't remember buying 4 things of spaghetti stuff. Where is this coming from? Yeah, and it's just like there.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all that because I had said enough, but yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, the freezer never emptied,
No.
Yeah,
and I
mine-
was glad it was going to.
The pantry never emptied. The
And I was
freezer
glad.
never emptied.
In the middle of this, my grandkids came out of California.
Right, yeah.
Yep. And went through
Your
30
big
pounds
grandkids.
of
Yeah.
chicken.
My giants.
Jolly Green Giants.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I still have food. It's
I love
amazing.
it. I love it.
God was great.
I love it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we'll pray out. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, for this Bible study. We thank you for opening our eyes and our minds to the parallels of Pharaoh's dream to what's going on today, Lord. And we just thank you for that it's an eye-opener. And it just allows us to now fellowship and actually think about and see blessings that we may have not thought about before and openly talk about. You're just an amazing God, and we thank you for